The law and gospel for the rich man and poor Lazarus from Luke chapter 16. What's some of the law in this story? And there's actually a lot of it you can find because it's not a happy story for most people in this story. So we see the rich man and he's selfish, he's greedy, not helping somebody in need, that's a sin. We see him commit a sin that was a sign of his unbelief in the story. And then we see that the rich man, like all sinners, we deserve to be separated from God eternally. And at death, we end up in hell. That's what we deserve. That's the bad news, that we deserve to have ourselves separated from everything good and everything that is God. And finally, no one can cross over from hell to heaven. You can't escape it. The punishment is eternal and permanent. There's just one time of grace, and the only tool that can change hearts is God's word. That's kind of bridges into good news, but you can't scare somebody into it. You can't prove somebody into it. You can't do that. Every other way fails. You can't make anybody believe in Jesus. But here's the good news. Here's the gospel. God's children are united with God and his people in heaven by grace. We see poor Lazarus had just a miserable life, but through faith in his God and the saving that he would do through his Messiah Jesus, he ended up going to Abraham's side and being with God, and he didn't have any lack of water or a feast, or he didn't need anything. He was with God and his people forever, and that's great news. That's what Jesus has given us. We also have the great comfort that God's word has the power to change our hearts and keep us as children. We have that amazing tool that tells us about God's love over and over again. That's great news to have that. Now let's summarize this story, the law and gospel of it. Sin leads us to greediness and eternal separation from God in torment in hell. By grace, God saved his people by the work of Jesus for an eternal blessed community with him. So this comfort is so good. This story can be kind of scary, but the comfort is God designed all this. He has given his son Jesus to hell and had him suffer hell so we get to spend eternity in his eternal community, and we're blessed forever. That's great news for you and me.